All right, we're joined with Bradley Saull today from the Professional Service Council. He's Vice President of Federal Civilian Agencies. And President Trump, the administration, dropped their budget proposal today. And so we're going to talk with Bradley a little bit about what's in there for federal IT, both from a civilian market standpoint as well as from a GovCon standpoint. So just to start off, Bradley, where does this year's IT budget sit compared with years in the past? The total civilian spending is creeping up a little over year a little bit, but is this significant change or is this kind of status quo?
Well, I think you have to look at the budget request that came out today in the context of what happened in 2017, and then what's kind of the dynamics are currently in play for 2018. Series of CRs. There's a lot of potential pullback from many civilian agencies actually that at least in the first quarter of 2018 have been holding back on their spending because they wasn't sure what that full funding what they would get for 2018. So I think the questions for 2018 are still out there as they feed for what the president released today for 2019. Certainly there's some hope for optimism, especially if you're in some agencies, civilian agencies like the VA or Department of Homeland Security. And then if you add on kind of the additional funding that the president added on as a result of the Bipartisan Budget Act from over the weekend or last week, some agencies did see a cut, but then when they added some additional spending that the administration was willing to concede as part of that Bipartisan Budget Act, some agencies are, in the case of HHS would be an example, originally down, but with the addition, then they're up. So there's some good spots in there for federal IT spending. If you look in the GSA's budget, for example, the Technology Modernization Fund for 2019, they proposed $210 million for agencies to potentially use to invest in modernizing their IT. So I think that's something that a lot of folks in the technology community look to right away.
So let's stay on the Modernizing Technology Fund. We know that this years ago, then President Obama had suggested this as a $3.1 billion revolving fund. That's gotten whittled down over the years, ended up getting into the combined Modernizing Government Technology Act, which said that there would be a central fund, but also agencies would be responsible for reprogramming some of their own funds. Now that we actually seen this fund get some potential love here for $210 million, is that enough to do anything with? What can agencies use this for to actually make changes?
Well, I think it's a start. I mean, that's what we've been saying in the Professional Services Council. Certainly, we'd like to see some can use to invest, and certainly there are some pockets that are in the base budget for some agencies, but it's a start, and making individual departments and agencies kind of present that business case, and maybe some healthy competition among other programs and needs across the government to fully make the case for why some additional modernization funds for their particular agency would be beneficial.
We also saw some call outs in there for cloud, which is, we've been seeing for 10 years plus now, but also another push for using shared services. We've seen that again and again from this administration when they're talking about IT modernization. Did you see anything in there for specific movement towards shared services other than just some spots where it mentioned it? But did you see any real pushes toward those initiatives?
Well, I think there's certainly an interest in this administration in shared services. You look at the sort of memos from OMB and the work some folks are doing at GSA, et cetera, to push shared services. Initially, looking through the budget, you do see some financial management modernization efforts that are still underway as it relates to the shared services. There's still some open questions about the interest in some agencies on using federal shared services or commercial shared services that I think will be they'll play itself out in the coming months. But I think that there are certainly opportunities for shared services mindset, and I think this is in line with kind of this administration's reorganization and reimagining some of these civilian agencies to leverage some of the good work that agencies are doing in certain areas to not duplicate efforts.
Of anything big jump out at you? Was there any program added or killed that you didn't expect, or a focus area that piqued your interest? What about this proposal jumped off the page at you?
Well, I was looking a little bit more at the federal health IT area, which is more of an interest of some of the companies that I work with at the Professional Services Council. And so certainly I think when you look at the VA, for example, the electronic health records modernization that they're looking to do, and also with Secretary Shulkin and what the use of Cerner or not, in that that modernization, there's $1.2 billion 19 budget for that. So they make decisions more towards the end of it. They're going to see how that plays out. Still $381 million to the VA for legacy systems modernization efforts that are in that agency, for an example. At HHS, we see $68 million for cyber efforts. So that's not only to secure cyber systems at HHS, but the broader HKIC for the Health Cyber Information Integration Center there. So there's some spending, particularly at agencies in the technology space that will be for program offices that are requesting and needing that funding, but also for the government community, the government contracting community, who could potentially offer those goods and services.
Yeah, that HHS cyber funding is interesting, and also the other one you mentioned, all the VA IT initiatives, they really did spell out a lot of what they're going to be doing, and that's going to be interesting stuff to follow over the next probably decade, I'm sure.